I am not new to YouTube. My first account was in 2006. Back then the only reason to get a YouTube account was to embed video clips on forums. YouTube had some sort of limit to how many videos you could upload. So I ended up with multiple accounts. One account for every forum I belonged to. All that was required was that each account have a separate email, and back then you could easily open up hundreds of email accounts on Yahoo. I am sure all of this violated the terms of services of both YouTube and Yahoo, but I never actually bothered to read the novel-length terms of service window before clicking agreed. If I agreed to something terrible, like Yahoo gets my firstborn, then good luck on them tracking down 108-year-old toilet shit face of Poopburg, Wyoming. Or one of the other aliases I created to activate new Yahoo accounts. The clips I uploaded to YouTube were meant to be seen on threads that no more than 15 forum members were reading. I had no idea YouTube had added a search function, or that my clips were being viewed by hundreds of thousands of viewers. Media companies began to call for YouTube to be shut down. In response, YouTube instituted a button that allowed copyright holders to instantly report their content was being used without their permission, which YouTube would immediately delete. This was the beginning of the three-strike policy. When a third video in your account was deleted for copyright violations, then your entire account was deleted, and Toilet Shitface was barred from ever opening an account on YouTube again. One by one my YouTube accounts bit the dust. I decided uploading clips was no longer worth the drama, and instead embedded clips on forums others had uploaded. I was done with YouTube. Or so I thought. I found something else to waste time with. This is Line Rider. It is a simple online toy. You draw a hill, then allow a man on a sled to slide down it. To encourage you to continue returning to the Line Rider site, they had a video on their home page of a very elaborate hill someone had created full of stunts. The elaborate hills were called tracks, and Line Rider asked visitors to their site to record their tracks in operation, upload them to YouTube, then become a member of their forum and post videos of their tracks. So I joined the forum, and began making videos. Each video I created was more elaborate than the last. One day I created a video where the Line Rider raced to rescue a girl tied to railroad tracks. The draw tools on Line Rider were crude, and without context, you could not tell the drawing was a girl tied to railroad tracks. So I decided to add an illustration at the beginning of the video of a villain tying a girl to the tracks, and have a caption explaining that Line Rider needed to rescue her. Then I decided to crudely animate the illustration. Next thing I knew, I got carried away and had created animation that bookended the video, turning it into a parody of the silent melodrama. It was a sensation on the Line Rider forum. They asked me to do more of them, so I made more adventures of the Line Rider silent films. The videos began to go viral on YouTube. This was before you could monetize your YouTube videos, so I made no money, but marveled at the hundreds of views they got every day. That is until the account was deleted. It was a shock to me. I had nothing but video game clips on that account. I checked the Yahoo account associated with it, and saw that a company called InXile had filed DMCA complaints against all my Line Rider videos. I did a little more investigating and discovered that InXile was the company that owned Line Rider. Those assholes. They were the ones that told me to create and upload Line Rider videos. I had other videos in that account. Awesome moments during gameplay. Tutorials for getting past impossible levels. Proof I discovered Easter eggs. Now they were all gone. Why did inXile go after my account? Could it have been because of the Line Rider on drugs video? But that one ended with a strong anti-drug message. I posted my predicament on the Line Rider forum and inquired if anyone else had their YouTube videos taken down by inXile, and it appeared I was the only one. Someone from the Line Rider site responded, apologizing and saying it must have been an overzealous lawyer working for one of the new owners of inXile who didn't understand the video game industry, and that I should open a new account and continue uploading track videos as if nothing happened. I tried to forgive and forget. This channel is the replacement account. The only video I uploaded to it was the first silent film parody, which was immediately flagged as copyrighted. So I decided screw YouTube and screw Line Rider. In the years since, I have only found 2 others who claimed their Line Rider videos were also DMCA'd by inXile. You need to be logged into YouTube to access adult videos, or if you want to comment on a video. So I kept logged into one of my remaining accounts. Then last year that account got the 3rd strike on an old video, and was terminated. It was a clip of George W. Bush, trying and failing to go through a prop door at the end of a news conference in China. But I had taped it off of NBC Nightly News. Apparently, my 10-year-old clip was in danger of bankrupting NBC Universal, even though every news outlet had the identical clip, and you can find hundreds of uploads of it on YouTube. Most of them without the NBC logo in the bottom corner. I wanted to comment on a video, so needed to find a working account. I checked my old accounts, but YouTube had deleted most of them. To my surprise, the Adventures of the Line Rider account was still active. Reactivating the account required that I launch a channel, which meant uploading a video. But did I have any videos to upload? When YouTube takes down an account, all of the videos associated with it go into a database, so that they can never be uploaded again. Even the videos that were not tagged as copyright violations. As far as YouTube is concerned, better safe than sorry. But it also meant any and all videos I had previously uploaded to YouTube, including all my Line Rider videos, could not be uploaded. This is why my attempt to re-upload one of the Line Rider videos was blocked for being copyrighted. However, I had a 45-minute video that incorporated all the Line Rider silent film parodies into a single feature, hosted by a robot. I had tried to upload it to my video game account a decade ago, but back then, YouTube did not allow videos that long. Today there are no restrictions on running time for a video. I knew that a video in the YouTube banned database could be uploaded again if you made slight edits to it. Would editing the robot footage onto the banned Line Rider videos allow the 45-minute cut to be uploaded? So I tried it. It wasn't blocked. No copyright violations were found. It has been up for a year and inXile has not tried to take it down. I bought the PC version of Grand Theft Auto 4 during the pandemic. I will be having all this free time during the lockdown, and wanted to revisit one of my favorite games from the past. I belonged to a gaming forum with an active Grand Theft Auto 4 thread. Occasionally I would find a glitch or possible Easter egg, and would make a screen capture of it to prove the glitch existed. I had bought a game controller, then discovered the button in the center activated a program for recording videos of the games. I also had a freshly activated YouTube account, so decided to once again make tutorial videos for game strategy and activating glitches, along with challenges for the other members of the forum. Now that I have once again become a producer of content for YouTube, the last thing I want is for this account to be deactivated for copyright violations. I have gone out of my way to either use material that is in the public domain, or within fair use. And yet, if you were to look at my account, you will see that many of my videos have been tagged as copyright violations. So what the hell happened? As of now, YouTube has an algorithm that is capable of identifying any copyrighted material in their database. And it is pretty good at it. The good news is that it saves the average YouTuber from inadvertently uploading copyrighted content and getting a third strike. Let's say you uploaded a video of your nephew's birthday party, but didn't realize the kiddie records they were playing at the party were copyrighted. You don't get a strike for violating some record label's copyright. You are given fair warning in advance. Your choice: mute the section with the music, or re-edit and resubmit the video. The bad news: YouTube's algorithm detects copyrighted material the copyright owners probably would have never realized you had used. There are two possible copyright violations. One is for copyrighted material you had better remove before publishing your video, or face a strike. More likely you get the second copyright violation. You are allowed to use the copyrighted material on your video, but if you monetize the video, then the copyright owner gets the money instead of you. It is unfair. You did all the work on the video, and someone who did none of the work gets paid for it. The first video I added music to was the Ghost Bike Glitch tutorial. I found a site that had public domain music, and chose Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, a classical piece that is usually played in haunted house cartoons. I had no problem with this one. It was in the armored truck tutorial that I was first accosted by the copyright police. I was making a parody of one of those educational films from the 50s, and wanted to find appropriate music. Someone had uploaded entire music track albums, the same ones the educational films used to score their shorts. Since these were recorded in the 1940s and were music that has grown out of fashion more than 50 years ago, I assumed the copyright must have lapsed. Who would be renewing the copyrights for music that isn't used anymore? And the video was uploaded years ago without YouTube taking it down. So I chose a track to score my video, and edited it to match the music. But once I tried to upload it, the copyright police informed me the music was copyrighted to Universal, and I was in danger of a strike if I published it. So the video was removed. I eventually settled on using the music from the silent Laurel and Hardy films. I knew for a fact that the music track albums for those films had lapsed into public domain decades ago. The music sort of worked, but not as much as the music I originally intended to use. So I could not trust obscure, out-of-fashion, half-century-old music, even if it made no sense that Universal would still be renewing its copyright, or that they would be submitting it to the YouTube algorithm to prevent anyone else on YouTube from using it. I decided the safest thing to do for my next video was to compose my own music. For the Nico serial killer video, I found an online piano. I realized that since Nico was insane in the video, that I could just hit random keys in the same pattern, and the viewers would assume the music was purposely manic. It worked for a serial killer video, but would not work for any other. For the tutorial on how to break into JJ China Unlimited, I used music composed for Grand Theft Auto 4 itself.
This is CNT.
Are you looking for quality Chinese goods? Then come to JJ China Limited, located on Huntington and Camden in Kelsa Heights. Our round-the-clock staff is eager to serve your needs.
You can hear that music when you go inside the store. Anything older than 100 years is no longer copyrighted. Basically, anything older than Mickey Mouse's first film. Every couple of decades Disney lobbies Congress to extend the length of the copyright so that none of their cartoons fall into the public domain. But as of now, anything made before 1925 is public domain. So for the dating tips video, I found piano roll music published in the 1800s. There was no way this could be copyrighted.
It is your first date, and you are justifiably nervous.
The copyright police showed up on a video I didn't add music to. I had made a short video with the challenge to blow up a lot of police cars without getting above a 2-star wanted level. And I gave a date when I would post the solution video. The video opened with this spectacular demo of Nico blowing up 4 cop cars. You may notice an edit. The unedited footage, which was regrettably later deleted by mistake, had the cars blow up one by one. One of which flipped through the air and landed in front of Nico, who then just casually turned towards the screen. Unfortunately, while uploading the video, I was informed by the YouTube algorithm that the section of video where it happened was copyrighted. I had no idea what triggered the copyright algorithm, and I had procrastinated on the video, leaving me just 10 minutes before midnight. So I chose the option to trim out the supposedly copyrighted footage and resubmit the video. The next day I checked the unedited footage and found the violation. An NPC driving by in his car had his stereo blasting with one of the Russian songs. It was only there for a couple of seconds. I may have been able to blow up 4 cop cars in an LCPD parking lot without the Liberty City Police detecting it, but a barely audible section of a song that was being covered up by explosions was detected by the copyright police. Touché, copyright police. Not wanting any other violations, I chose the Grand Theft Auto theme for their hooker racing video.
I'll show you a good time, baby.
Okay, I could do with really hating myself. Get in.
I found a website that claimed to for a one-time fee, provide royalty-free music for YouTube videos. I chose an Italian-style polka for the Fuck Pecorino video. And the copyright police found a violation. Basically, the website copyrighted their so-called free music. I could still use it, but if the video was monetized, the website would get the money. Lesson learned. Stay away from those so-called royalty-free music sites. I decided to download a lot of classical music composed in the 1800s or earlier. Surely music that old isn't copyrighted. I chose a waltz for the test drive with Gracie video. The copyright police tagged it. Somehow their algorithm recognized which album the music came from. Classical music uses the same sheet music. Orchestras perform the music the same way all the others do, usually using the same instruments. Yet somehow the YouTube algorithm was able to recognize this waltz over the same exact waltz from other recordings. And I had sped up the tempo, yet YouTube still recognized it. I was still allowed to use it, but if monetized, the recording label would get the money. It wasn't enough if the music was public domain. The recording was still copyrighted. So I dumped all the classical music I had uploaded. Any classical music I used from that point on would need to have been recorded before 1925. I found recordings of Edison discs of the tune Whistler's Dog. I put it on my Pecorino challenge video and got a copyright violation. Once again a mild violation where I could still use it, but someone else would get paid. The thing is, it is impossible that anyone owns the copyright for this music. A little history lesson. Thomas Edison invented the phonograph in 1877, but didn't get around to creating a commercial phonograph until the early 1880s. Edison chose to record his music on cylinders rather than discs. Rivals to Edison released their records on discs. For the next decade there was a format war between Edison's phonograph with cylinders, and Victor's gramophone which used discs. But by 1912 the gramophone surpassed the phonograph in sales, ending the format war. The tune Whistler's Dog was recorded onto an Edison cylinder in 1905. Even if the Edison company ignored that the cylinder format was dead and continued to renew the copyrights for their records, which I doubt, the final year the recording would have been copyrighted would be 2011 under the current copyright laws. So how does a random company own the copyright to a 115-year-old recording that probably drifted into the public domain decades ago? And then YouTube took down one of my videos for a hard copyright violation, and I got a possible first strike. Which caught me off guard because it didn't include anything but footage recorded on Grand Theft Auto 4. It was a tutorial on a glitch I had discovered where you could cancel wanted levels by stealing a car out of the Grotti showroom. I neglected to check if the YouTube filter found a copyright violation, since it was entirely footage from the game. When I checked to see if it was working, the video was done and replaced with the caption, "This video was taken down for copyright claims." I immediately deleted the video, and its status was replaced with, "Video unavailable." This video has been removed by the user. For about a day I feared Rockstar had filed the copyright complaint as they could be the only copyright holders. Perhaps Rockstar wanted to keep the Grotti glitch a secret. I did a little more research and discovered it was Atlantic Records claiming the violation. Suddenly it occurred to me. I was so used to the game that I completely forgot that the Grotti dealership plays album cuts over their in-store stereo system. I inadvertently had a song copyrighted to Atlantic in the background of the video. From that point on I made sure any time I was recording a video that the music track was turned down to 0. I also tried to stay away from having any music on the videos. Two exceptions were the In Memoriam video, which uses music from the game's soundtrack. And the Pole Man video. For that, I found an online organ and did a simple two-note score reminiscent of the score from Taxi Driver. But I wouldn't even count this as music. The Firefly Island video got a minor violation, even after I had taken steps to use video and images that were protected under free use. It turns out some of the news footage had licensed music as a score. There was no way to remove the licensed music from the background without muting the dialogue. And then there is the Kung Fu movie parody, which earned 2 violations. I knew there was a risk in using music from 70s martial arts films, as Hong Kong films from back then commonly stole music from Hollywood soundtracks. But the other violation. Since the video parodied tropes from 70s martial arts movies, I decided to go for the Bruceploitation trope. The one where stock footage of Bruce Lee is edited into a film, then promoted as a Bruce Lee movie. It was the stock footage of Bruce Lee that got tagged as a copyright violation for using footage from True Game of Death, supposedly owned by Whacked Out Media. Just one problem. Whacked Out Media could not possibly own True Game of Death. This is a bit complicated and will take a while to unpack, so be patient. Back in 1972, Bruce Lee began work on what would have been his 4th martial arts movie, Game of Death. Its plot had Bruce forced by criminals who kidnapped his family to retrieve a treasure from the top floor of a tower. Each floor of the tower was guarded by a martial arts master who Lee would need to fight. Lee spent 4 months filming Game of Death, taking a break in 1973 to film Enter the Dragon. Now slated to be his 5th martial arts movie, Lee planned to continue filming Game of Death once filming of Enter the Dragon had ended. But on July 20, 1973, Bruce Lee died suddenly of a brain hemorrhage. Fans knew Lee had been working on a film before his death, and wanted to know if it would ever be released. Lee's studio, Golden Harvest, assured them that Game of Death was nearly complete, and all the studio needed to do was film a few more scenes with a Bruce Lee double. Actually, Lee had filmed only 40 minutes of footage, which was just him fighting 3 of the masters in the tower. The flaws with the other 2 masters, the gang kidnapping his family and blackmailing him into going to the tower, and Lee finding the treasure, were never filmed. The footage Bruce Lee shot was edited down to 11 minutes, and lengthened another 90 minutes with a Bruce Lee lookalike standing in for him, along with footage from previous Bruce Lee films for the close-ups, and a bunch of Hollywood stars who pieced together a brand new plot where Lee's character was being harassed by a crime syndicate. Game of Death was released in 1978. True Game of Death was released in 1979. It was an unauthorized remake of Game of Death with a smaller budget and no Hollywood stars in the cast. The only reason this film exists was to trick theaters into thinking it was the other Game of Death. They even credited Bruce Lee as the movie's star. In order to get away with that, the producers of True Game of Death edited in stock footage of Bruce Lee. Specifically, footage from his trailers in a flashback scene, footage from his funeral including Lee in his casket, and footage of him from a promotional event for the movie Fist of Unicorn, a film Lee agreed to choreograph and promote in order to get it financed. The producer and director didn't use their real names, most likely to avoid being named in a lawsuit. They infringed on copyrighted scenes from Game of Death, and I am sure the studio Golden Harvest did not want a counterfeit version of Game of Death competing with their own film. So basically, true Game of Death is a copyright violation of Game of Death. But let's assume that somehow Whacked Out Media had successfully tracked down the true copyright holders of this film and purchased them. The section of the film I am accused of stealing, the footage of Bruce Lee at the Fist of Unicorn rap party, is pre-existing footage edited into the film. It is doubtful the producers of True Game of Death had ever obtained legal clearance to use any of the Bruce Lee footage. But even if they did, they do not own the footage. That would be like Warner Brothers claiming they owned the copyright to footage of Martin Luther King Jr. just because Oliver Stone edited the footage into the movie JFK. So basically, Whacked Out Media is claiming ownership for footage they do not own, for a movie it is doubtful they have the copyrights to. That is in turn an infringement on the copyrights of a Golden Harvest film. Both Whistler's dog and the Bruce Lee footage call into question if any other copyright claims against me were bogus. Anyone can claim to own a copyright for anything. But does YouTube even bother to do the research to see if the copyright claim is legit? Someone could be claiming copyright for media they do not own, or lost the copyright too long ago. Take Universal, for example. The media company that shut down my old account for using old footage of George W. Bush. A decade ago they made another copyright claim against me, for posting a video from a game on the Game Boy called Balloon Kid. I found out about it a day later when YouTube sent me an email apologizing for taking the video down, saying it had been done by mistake, and that the video was reinstated. Exactly who caught the mistake, the Universal lawyers who initially claimed the video, or the YouTube staff, is unclear. But I checked, and there was absolutely no media that Universal owned that was called Balloon Kid. I have no idea why they thought it was their property. Copyright laws were originally created to protect content creators. The invention of the printing press in the 1400s meant that authors could rent a press and print hundreds of copies of their work, and sell them. But without copyright laws, anyone could print and sell their own copies of that book. If someone else printed copies of their book, then each one of those copies that were sold meant one less copy the author could sell. It wasn't just a matter of someone else making money off of an author's work, but that someone else was denying the author the money that work generated. So the original copyright laws were just. They made sure that authors, artists and other creators were given a decade or two to exclusively profit from their own works, an option to re-register for another decade or two of that protection. And should they die, the ability for their widow and children to continue to profit from their work another couple of decades. Copyright laws became corrupted when they began being owned by corporations. Publishers, record companies, movie studios, and other companies decided profiting off of a piece of work for a few decades was not long enough. So they were successful in lobbying for laws that stretched copyright protection of their property for decades. Worst of all, they were able to corrupt the copyright laws so that it was no longer the creators of the content that was protected, but the corporation that published it. The copyright laws no longer exist to protect the rights of creators, but to extend dominance of corporations over the intellectual property they acquire. Yet each time these companies lobbied to have the copyright laws extended so copyrights last another 3 decades, they claim to be doing it to protect the creators. But what of the creators of YouTube content? Do I not own the copyright of the work I upload here? I wrote, directed and created it. I did all the work to make this and my other videos exist. So if Sony Music or some other corporation is monetizing my copyrighted YouTube material, aren't they violating my copyrights? Shouldn't I be able to file a DMCA complaint against them? Why would I agree to allow a multi-million-dollar company make any money off of my work, while I am entitled to nothing? YouTube's policies are wrong. I can understand if a company got a small portion of the money that video earned for allowing me to use their precious copyrighted material. But not to get the full profits from a video I only used a few seconds of their music in. Especially if that copyrighted material is something they probably don't even own, or just vaguely own the rights to. The copyright filters need to be fixed. And the copyright laws should be in favor of the small online content creators, not the big media corporations. Sure, I understand that if I upload the entire Loki series to YouTube, I am costing Disney Plus subscribers. But how much freaking money am I costing any company for having a few minutes of their music in the background of my video?